No student debt, no student debt. No student debt, no student debt.
Debt! Cancel it! How much? All of it!
Melissa Byrne has student debt and has been organizing outside the White House, helping to lead rallies once a month.
We've had a student loan pause for 2 years. So people have had 2 years of not paying on their federal student loan debt. And guess what? People have been able to exhale.
Americans owe over $1 trillion for their student debt, according to the Student Debt Crisis Center, and they are also facing inflation and tuition hikes. Income hasn't been able to match the speed of price hikes. While prices went up by almost 9%, in that same year, income only increased to 6.1%.
This issue is a really important issue for communities of color.
Black and elderly borrowers struggle more to pay down their debt, and Black borrowers also earn less, making it harder to repay student loans on time.
It's an important issue for first-generation students. And so the point is that we want to expand who can get an education.
Good.
I will be the first one in the family to own this land and be a college graduate, so that is pretty neat. Farming is something that I grew up doing, something that my dad made important to me and my brother, so I feel like that's something I want to take to wherever I go next.
I know where I would like to end up, but I don't know exactly how am I going to get there with the debt that is currently accumulating.
Desmond Rozier is 19 years old and is a first-generation college student at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Over the summer, he worked 2 part-time jobs to help pay for his tuition. He is also applying for scholarships.
Currently, the university has increased its tuition, and that is a lot of money on a family who doesn't really know what to expect from universities and stuff like that. I'm working 2 jobs, doing side jobs and stuff with my father. My father's working 6 a.m. till whenever the job's done. My mom, she's working. It's hard to really maintain a family feel sometimes when all you're worried about is how we're gonna pay off that student debt that's soon to come. The love in the family is still here, but there's a different concern now that debt is knocking on our door.
Student debt is the second largest consumer debt behind mortgages.
Keep in mind before we even go into this is where we are now, is that 6 years after starting a degree, only 38% of Black students graduate in that time period versus 54% for Latinx and 60% for white or Asian students. And so when we're talking about student debt, we're not always talking about debt with a degree.
And it's not just paying off student loans that has become a heavy burden.
It's not just impacting the ability of young people to say, purchase homes or sort of make transitions to adulthood. It's affecting the ability of older Americans to do things like retire.
I'm old enough to remember people who would go to a public university like UNC Chapel Hill, and they were working their way through college. What we have to remember is that same person putting forth that same effort or even more effort just wouldn't be able to make a dent trying to make payments on their education today.
Savvy has been working with AARP to help bring all of you and the broader AARP community information and education about your student loan debt.
Many people are unaware that the fastest growing demographic of student loan borrowers is 50 plus. And so I think that that's where people really feel like they are out of hope and out of options because, like I said, they're going into a fixed income or limited income state, they're experiencing higher interest rates, and they're taking on enormous amounts of debt later stages in life. And that debt is tied to them.
Lindsay Clark works at Savvy, helping borrowers to understand their debt. And she has personal experience. Clark herself has over $200,000 in student debt alone.
You feel defeated and that there's really no way out of this realistically unless I come into some large sum of money. I'm really not going to be able to pay this off on a monthly basis. And so that's when you start thinking long term around, well, maybe this is just simply the monthly payment that I make for the rest of my life until I die.
In 2020, President Biden campaigned on $10,000 in student loan forgiveness. Advocates say more is needed.
basically, if you wanted to help at least half the affected population, we were looking at a $30,000 to $35,000 debt relief proposal, not the $10,000 debt relief proposal.
Is growing numbers of debtors who have basically faced a situation of negative amortization, which is to say their debt continues to grow after leaving college because the sheer amount of the monthly payments are just too much for them to afford.
Lawmakers have asked Biden to stall federal loan payments.
How are we looking at fixing this systemic issue of student debt, right? Because one-time cancellation could be great, but we're going to have another wave of borrowers coming in next year, right? And for many people, they're going to continue to carry those balances. And I think what we've really seen is that the fact that it takes people so long to pay this off because of things like capitalized interest, that's really where we need to see the fixes and the solutions if we're ever going to get out of this.
I really do think that our country needs a reality check. Like I said, there's families dealing with how they're going to pay for their medicine, how they're going to pay for food, how are they going to feed their newborn babies of the families that they've just started. Personally, I was raised always that family goes first and to always look out and take care of your family and stuff like that. And a lot of people are having a burden of not being able to do that because of student debt.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today to stay up to date with all the latest news.